What kind of year do I actually want to live, not just achieve? In this conversation, Williamson talks about something that deeply resonated with me. The real change doesn't come from doing more, but from subtracting what silently drains us. This hit close. I'm Tina, and I love to share what I like. My life always looked successful from the outside, but inside my body was carrying the cost. Stress, overload, pushing through, until my body said, I don't want this anymore. What I appreciate about this conversation is its honesty. There is no promise of perfect life, just a reminder that problems don't disappear. He speaks about the lonely phase of growth, the moment when all dynamics no longer fit and you stop performing for approval and start building something that actually feels like you. This is exactly where performance changed meaning for me. Not louder, not faster, not clearer. Performance grounded in health, elevated by ownership. I invite you to listen differently, not for the tactics, but for the quiet questions underneath. Maybe 2026 doesn't need more ambition. Maybe it needs more truth.
All right, let's talk about it. Every single year, it's pretty much the same story, isn't it? We get this big surge of motivation, we set these huge, ambitious goals, and then, well, life happens. And before we know it, we feel like we've fallen short again. But what if 2026 could be different? What if this is the year you finally break that cycle for good? Well, that's exactly where we're going to build today. Your personal blueprint for success.
And look, that feeling of not quite making it, it's not just in your head. When you look at the actual numbers, it turns out only about 9% of people actually keep their New Year's resolutions for the whole year. 9%. That's a massive gap between what we want to do and what we actually do. So the real question is, what on earth are those 9% doing differently?
Well, first things first, it's all about a mindset shift. Instead of seeing the new year as this moment of insane pressure to reinvent yourself, let's just reframe it. As the thinker Williamson puts it, it's a structured opportunity to check in. Think about it. It's one of the few times our culture gives us permission to just pause. It's not about some magic date on the calendar. It's about having a dedicated moment to do the important, big picture thinking on our lives that usually gets drowned out by all the daily chaos.
And that brings us perfectly into our first stage, the blueprint. This is where we stop wishful thinking and start some actual strategic planning. And it all begins by asking yourself a few really good high-level questions to get some clarity.
Okay, forget making a laundry list of 20 different goals. This right here might be the single most powerful question you can ask yourself to kick off the year. Seriously. When you really sit with it, what would have to happen to truly move the needle for you? Usually the answer boils down to just 2 or 3 big things that genuinely matter. This question is designed to just cut right through all the noise.
And here's another great one for getting some perspective. Just for a second, imagine your life is a movie, and you're the main character. What's the obvious move? What would the audience, sitting there with their popcorn, be screaming at the screen for you to do? Just leave that job already, or tell that person how you feel. So often the answer is uncomfortably clear, and this little thought experiment helps us finally admit it to ourselves.
We almost always think about goals as things we need to add to our lives, like I'm going to start going to the gym or I'm going to start a business. But here's the thing, you can't just keep adding things to a life that's already full to the brim. Real, lasting change isn't just about addition. It's just as much about strategic subtraction. To make space for the new, you have to be intentional about what you're going to stop doing. Think of your time and your energy like a plate at a buffet. It doesn't magically get bigger just because you see more things you want to try. You've got a finite capacity. And so the first rule of a successful year is just accepting that simple truth. In order to pick something new up, you first have to decide what you're willing to put down.
So you've made your blueprint. Awesome. But a great plan is totally useless without a great engine to make it go. And that brings us to part 2. We're shifting from that high-level strategy to the practical, daily systems, the habits that are going to actually drive your progress day in and day out.
And you don't need some massive, life-altering overhaul to get started. Just begin with a few low-effort, high-return habits. For example, charging your phone outside the bedroom? Game changer for your sleep. A quick 10-minute walk first thing in the morning gets you sunlight and calms your whole system. Delaying your morning coffee by 90 minutes helps you avoid that afternoon crash. And hey, even just trying a few months with no alcohol can be incredibly revealing about how it's affecting everything else. These are simple changes, but they have huge cascading benefits.
Now, when it comes to making these habits actually stick, there is one golden rule that is more important than all the others. Forget about being perfect. That's not the goal. The real goal, the only one that matters, is to never miss 2 days in a row. This simple little shift in thinking builds resilience, not rigidity.
And here's why that rule is so incredibly powerful. Missing 1 day, that's just a mistake. It happens to everyone. Life gets in the way. But missing 2 days in a row, that's a decision. That's the beginning of a brand new and unwanted habit. This whole framework just removes all the guilt from a single slip-up and gives you a crystal clear, immediate plan for what to do next. Just get right back on track tomorrow.
Okay, so you have the blueprint. You've got the engine. But none of it is going to work without the right operating system. So now we're shifting our focus to the psychological game, the mindset shifts you need to make any real change last for the long haul.
Does this sound at all familiar? It's a really modern problem, especially for high achievers. It's that constant nagging feeling in the back of your head that you're not doing enough, that you're always behind schedule, no matter how much you actually get done. It's when the pursuit of being productive literally robs you of the ability to enjoy any of your actual successes. And this right here gets to the absolute heart of the problem. We just keep pushing and pushing, thinking that the next achievement, the next goal we hit, will finally make us feel whole. But, as Williamson says, this is an unteachable lesson. You kind of have to learn it the hard way. External success, more money, a better job title, more followers, it cannot fill an internal void. It just can't.
So why is it so easy to get stuck then? Well, this paradox explains it perfectly. A truly terrible job? Easy to quit. A horrible relationship? You know you have to leave. But a meh job, a relationship that's just fine. Those are the real traps. They aren't bad enough to give you that burst of energy you need for a big change, so they leave us stuck in this dangerous zone of comfortable complacency, sometimes for years.
This classic story is such a powerful gut check. A businessman on vacation sees a local fisherman and tells him, "Hey, you should fish longer, buy more boats, build a huge company." The fisherman asks, "Why?" Well, the businessman says, "So you can make millions and retire early." The fisherman asks, "And then what would I do?" The businessman replies, "Then you can relax, sleep in, and spend your afternoons playing with your family." To which the fisherman says, "But that's what I'm already doing." It's a great reminder to ask, are you chasing a complicated version of a simple happiness that's already right in front of you?
So let's end on this thought. In 3 generations, it's pretty unlikely that anyone will even remember our names. And if that doesn't give you a sense of total liberation to just drop your problems for a minute, find some joy, and enjoy this wild ride, what will? Life is happening right now, not tomorrow, not when things are perfect, so don't wait. What's one small step you can take today?